Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Sons of Liberty podcast. Today, we have got a super awesome episode coming your way. But first, thank you guys so much for giving us your time. We understand that time is the most valuable thing you have, so thank you for entrusting us with your time. We hope we do not disappoint.
And while he wastes time thanking you for your time, I'll tell you what's actually going on in this episode. We've got Kari Macrae, a state senate candidate for the Plymouth and Barnstable district. She's one of the most fiery women you will ever meet, you've ever heard. She's going to fight for the issues of the people of Massachusetts, and she's going to stand up to the people on the State House. So enough.
But why would our listener in Alaska care about a state senate race? What kind of issues do we tackle that are important to people all across the country?
Because these are grassroots issues, parental rights issues, education issues, illegal immigration issues that affect every single state is the issues that she is addressing. The Republicans, the rhinos in Massachusetts don't want to talk about it, but she will, and that's what we discussed on today's episode. Thank you guys for watching.
Homie's firing me up. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment, and share the Sons of Liberty podcast wherever your friends are in consuming this sort of content. So you can find us on any sort of podcasting platform, YouTube, Rumble, X, etc. We're on Facebook, actually. I don't know if I forgot to tell you that, but I started posting stuff on Facebook.
No more OnlyFans. Start watching only the Sons of Liberty podcast. We've got plenty of episodes. Excited for this one today. Thank you, guys.
Oh, please welcome Kari Macrae. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Sons of Liberty podcast. This is Hunter over here. My name is Sam. And today we have got the great Kari Macrae in studio with us. Welcome to the Sons of Liberty studio. Definitely isn't also an apartment, so we're just going to leave that out.
Okay, love it.
I don't know if the camera on you sees the bed behind you, but welcome to our little studio here. Thank you for coming and talking with us.
Yeah.
So I'll let you introduce yourself, what you're doing, kind of what your deal is here, and why you're coming on the podcast.
Awesome. So thank you again for this time and the conversation. I'm looking forward to it. So my name is Kari Macrae, and I am an elected school board member, which kind of catapulted me to now running for a state senate. And I've got a great family, 4 children, grandbabies. It's good stuff, and that's why I think it's so important that we get involved. And when I met you guys too, to see how involved you are too, it's great to see with younger people, seeing that things are a mess, and we need to push back and stand up and have a voice. So
yeah, so you're running state senate in Massachusetts.
Yes, Plymouth and Barnstable district.
Barnstable.
Yep. So that would be Plymouth, Pembroke, Plimpton, Kingston, and then on the the Cape side, you have Bourne, Sandwich, Falmouth, and Mashpee.
Okay, that's awesome. Before we started filming, you were mentioning something, reading on your phone about these crazy numbers. What were you talking about there?
So a couple of things. One, I just received a message from Jack Gately, actually, who does his own little podcast and stuff in Plymouth, and he said something about now the amount is $75 million a month. $75 million a month is what we're paying as citizens to support illegal immigration. It's just crazy. And you think about the whole country, because we're not the only ones, we were far removed from it, and now we're right in the beast, the belly of the beast.
How has it traveled up to Massachusetts this quickly? I mean, how is that possible?
Well, I think it's been going on for a long time, when you think about Texas, Arizona. We just met, what was it?
Mark Lamb.
Yes. Sheriff Mark Lamb, right? They've been dealing with it. Florida, all the southern states, and even the coast, California, right? It's now with our right to shelter laws and all of the sanctuary cities that we have in our state, and our governor, who is out there saying, come on, that's contributing to it. And it's just not sustainable. It's not right.
Yeah, and Maura Healey was crying on the news about it, saying it's going to be such a difficult time, we're going to have to make it through these next few months. And she's the one just allowing it. I mean, she's not doing anything actually. You know, there's illegals living in. They said there was no illegals in the airport, living in Logan Airport,
Yep.
and literally all you have to do is walk in there. They're there, and it's crazy how much they try to hide everything, and they try to. And you know, what does the news in Massachusetts even talk about? Like, do they even bring any of this stuff up? Actually, you have to go on Twitter. You have to go on all these other things to actually find out what is actually going on. And you have to watch the Sons of Liberty podcast to do that as well.
Yes,
But
absolutely.
it is absolutely ridiculous. And tell us a little bit about, I know Susan Moran, who currently holds the state Senate seat. I mean, she's a very big liberal, and I know she's had some legislation that has supported it. What do you know about the way she's supporting the illegals?
Well, you know, it's interesting because across even some of the Republicans that are in office now and the majority of Democrats are sitting here saying that it's about the money, you know, that we need more money from the federal government. You know, the federal government's not sending us enough money. You know, even my husband was reminding me today, $64 a day per person for food is what we're spending. That's insane.
On illegals. In Massachusetts. That's
in Massachusetts.
crazy.
So the average family of four for the year is almost $93,000 a year that we as taxpayers, can you imagine spending $93,000 a year on food? That's insane. Your family, I just can't imagine that. People don't
What
even
are they
make
buying?
that.
They go into Whole Foods, like breakfast, lunch, and dinner. The hot bar aisle. I mean, you put a lot of that stuff in there. It's like $33
Yep, you're
for one
absolutely
meal.
right.
It's ridiculous. I've
Then
gotten
you have
carried away a lot.
You have the food bank, right? The Boston Food Bank. They can make those meals for under $3. Under $3. So under $9 a day. Why are we paying $64 a day per person? It's you follow the money. It's all corruption. It's because everybody has the hand in the pot. That's why it's $64 a day. It's insane.
And how many illegal aliens are in Massachusetts?
Well, they say
Obviously, they're undocumented, so it's hard to tell exactly.
Exactly,
but
between 7,500 and 10,000.
Ooh, man.
Now,
That does sound low, to be
it's
honest.
low.
That does sound low.
I agree that it's low. And the other thing is, from what I heard the other day from State Rep Exaros, he said it was almost 30,000. So when you think about how many people are in these different communities, it's bigger than some of these cities and towns in population.
So if there was only 7,500, that comes out to $697 million
On food.
on food every year for these illegal aliens.
Mm-hmm.
And they want to pay for their housing. They want to pay for, it's like,
And if it's up to 30, that's millions.
Yeah,
that's just food, not even housing. And that probably is a lot more
yeah.
expensive.
Well, we're getting into the billions a year, basically, with if there's
Yes.
30,000. And why do you think they said they want federal funding to help this out? So we want to subsidize crime?
Well, that's exactly the point. Thank you, Hunter, right? And that's what's so frustrating is to spend money on people who are not here legally. And I'm all for legal immigration, right? That's what our country is founded on, that, right? People are coming from all over the place, and they know it's a beautiful place and a great place to live. Freedom. And when you think about the veterans, the homeless population that we have in this whole district and across the Cape, across the state, if you go to Boston, I mean, you guys were just there a couple weeks ago. You know, when you see people that are American citizens that are homeless and they're on waiting lists, but then you have illegal immigrants who are in these hotels who are getting preferential treatment.
Right.
It's absolutely exhausting and mind-numbing because you go to argue with these people and debate and say, yes, you feel bad for people. I get it. We all feel bad. It'd be great if we could bring everybody in the world here, but it's not sustainable. Even when it's legal, it's not sustainable.
Yeah, and what kind of testimony is that to America? They come here thinking they're going to get freedom, and what you get is socialism, which is basically like all these people coming from Venezuela, all these other countries. All they know is socialism, and they come here thinking, oh, it's the capitalists, the free market, everything. No, it's just the same exact thing, except we just have more money to spend. Well, we print trillions of dollars a year to do it, but
Well, in the federal money, that the pushback I give too is, and even Rep. Nat Moratori,
who is running?
who is my opponent on the Republican side. Yes, the primary. He even said on the Pat Jasmara show, I think it was, he said, listen, we just need to get more money from the federal government. That's the problem. We have to get more money. We need to find these people permanent housing. These are individuals that can work in our hotels and our restaurants, which sounds pretty inappropriate. Let's just say that. Really? You don't think that these
Borderline
people
like
could do more?
indentured servitude.
Yeah,
I know.
We'll pay you to live here and to eat here, and then have you work in our businesses.
yeah, you see some of these news stories, and let's just be honest, it's propaganda of people. Oh, look, the government's asking us to take in illegals, and look at this family that took them in. It's definitely propaganda. I don't know who's paying them, but it is.
no Bostonian family is taking in like
These white liberal women, and they go. It's really nice having an extra set of hands in the house. They cook me nice meals, they clean, they do my
It's like
laundry.
having a built-in chef, I think one woman said, right?
Yes, and it's like
Sounds
do you
like
not
regression.
see-
Oh
Well,
my God,
that is
Yeah.
typical of the
Absolutely right.
Democrat Party historically to own slaves. So, side note there.
Yeah. No, and it's true. I mean, it's I really feel like we're at a point in time where you have some people who say, whatever happens with Joe Biden, and if he's reelected and it's not Trump, our country's gone. And we say this all the time, right? Me and my husband kind of go back and forth. I'm like, we're going to be a mess. He was like, Kari, as long as the pendulum starts to bounce back. And I think that's what's happening now.
Yeah.
People are paying attention. People are, looking at, like you say, podcasts and things like that for more information. And then you link the facts, the raw data, what's happening in the State House in Massachusetts.
Right.
People never go there. It's very convoluted
Oh, yeah.
to try to find bills and to follow. So by having people like you that do podcasts, people like Jack Gately who does podcasts, and then they pop in the resources. So you could talk about it, but at least when you show the people the information, you can't do any more than that, right?
Yeah.
And the legalese in these bills is just insane. Like trying to read through the bill HD 4420 back during the summer, trying to read through that. It's mostly amendments to prior bills
Yes.
that people already have no idea what those are, what those mean, what those do. And there's no explanation in the bill. It seems almost intentionally designed to make people confused, therefore disassociate and become apathetic and just not care. It's weird.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
get it.
And I think that's part of the problem with the Republicans in Massachusetts is that they don't, they should be media blast. Every crazy thing that these, Democrats do, there's only 26 Republicans to 120 or whatever Democrats.
Yeah.
It's they have a crazy majority. Yes, you're not
In
going
the
to
House,
get.
yeah.
In the House.
The House, yeah.
And it's 37-3 in the Senate.
Nope,
or something, or
36 to 4
36
now.
to 4. We got one.
Yep, Durant.
Got one?
Good job.
Peter Durant.
Good job, buddy.
Go. Was this like a special election? Or?
It was a special election, yes, I think in Worcester.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Oh, good for him.
Was it close, or how did that race go?
No, I think he did pretty good. But the problem was, from what I understand, the election still hasn't happened yet. He gave up a Republican seat. Now, the good thing about the special election was if he didn't win,
He could.
he'd stay in his seat.
Yeah.
So that's good, right?
Yeah.
Unlike my opponent now, who's
Well, Matt
Gambling a
Meritori.
seat.
We'll get into Republicans and
Yeah.
fake conservative Republicans in a little bit, because that's definitely something that we bring the heat on every single
yeah.
podcast.
yeah.
And and I know you do too. But I wanted to actually pose a question, going back to something that you said, pushing back a little on you said that I'm for legal immigration, and we want people to do it the right way. Now, personally, I am too. I believe legal immigration is a good thing, philosophically speaking, ideologically speaking, biblically speaking. We're supposed to be good to the sojourner, according to the Old Testament. But the part, what do you think about the argument that says that there's some sect of conservatives saying this, and I hear online and people saying this. What do you think about the argument that says legal immigration is good, but not right now? because we have had such an influx of illegal immigration.
Oh, absolutely.
That we can't handle. We need. I've heard we need to stop it just for a little bit. Where it's 5-10 years, I've heard different numbers thrown out. But for some period of time, stop legal immigration and just give our economy time to recover and people time to recover. What do you think about that argument?
Oh, I think that absolutely makes sense. Or we can trade some, right? We can we can scoop up and send some back, and then there'll be room for people who are working their butt off and trying so much to come here legally.
Right.
But I agree with you, right? There was a I can't think of his name, but there was this gentleman. Yeah, I think he was a professor. And he did this presentation. You guys might have seen it with marbles or gumballs. And he had like all these different like cylinders, right? And it was filled with gumballs. And then it was like, this is China. And it had for each marble or gumball was like 1 million people or something. So he had United States of America. And then you had all these huge jars. And he would take like 1 million and plop it in here. And then he said, now, you get to a point that United States is capped up and filled, right? And they say, oh, we need to bring the people from Haiti, bring the people from these countries where they're struggling, right? The economy is poor, so on and so forth. But when you keep bringing, which usually is the people that have the, wherewithal, right? And the ability to look for something better, what you leave behind is the people that struggle who probably aren't going to be able to make that country better and fix things, right?
Yeah.
The people that leave are usually the people that we really need to encourage to stay, to fight, to make their home country better, to not leave those people behind. And when he went through this whole marble thing, you'll have to look it up. At the end, he said, at the end, you still have now, United States, if we keep taking and we keep taking, it overflows. And what happens? We lose the integrity and the ability to maintain a free nation because we're overrun. And at the end of the day, those countries that those people are coming from are even worse, in a worse situation because the cream of the crop is trying to leave, right?
And we end up worse off too. It's like
We
worse for
end up
everybody.
worse. Yeah.
And if you want legal immigration, then we have to put a temporary stop any more illegal immigration, have deportation, and maybe stop illegal immigration for a time to let the economy recover. If we want to have legal immigration in the future, because if it keeps going the way it is, it's going to destroy the immigration system,
People
if not
won't
the
have
country.
they won't want to come here anymore.
Yeah, I mean it's crazy. When I say this, people will automatically assume that it's somehow marginalizing, but I'm starting to see commercials totally in Spanish, totally in Portuguese, and on its face, there's nothing wrong with that. No, we want legal immigrants, but these people are generally not legal. Who these ads are targeting, and I don't It's kind of scary. Like there needs to be a common identity. Like to have a proper citizenry, there needs to be a shared language, a common identity. Because if there's no shared language, if you speak Spanish and I speak English, I can't understand you. I can't come to common ground with you. I can't build a business with you. I can't run a government with you. There's a faction that's going to be created, and there's really no way to remedy that unless you learn the language or get an interpreter. But most people, they're not going to do that. So it's going to create a faction and two factions warring against each other. And that's only going to cause division. So it sounds marginalizing, but actually you need the citizenry wrapped around a common identity. And that's what we're losing in America. And that's partially, for me, that's my biggest concern about the illegal immigration thing.
Sam, as I hear you talk, you know what it sounds like to me? It sounds like you're a conspiracy theorist because the Great Replacement Theory, this is what it sounds like you're talking about to me. And that's been debunked. We know the Great Replacement Theory is obviously not true.
No, definitely not.
There isn't people who hate America, globalists or anything, that would love to see us fall. China would love it, if we were...
They want us to thrive. Right?
Yeah, China would love it if we were a strong, great nation and everything. So I think that you're kind of being ridiculous.
My bad. Poor Kari over here.
No,
She's scared. She's like, you're going to ruin my campaign. What do you... Stop talking.
Look, listen, at the end of the day, it becomes that sustainability thing, right? And, I've kind of botched it a couple of times. My husband's like, don't keep saying it. But you think about like a life draft, right? it says 20 people. Maybe you could put 25, maybe you could put 30, right? Different weights, different whatever, balance them out the right way. If you put 100 people in that life raft, it's done.
Right.
It's sinking and everybody's gone. And I think that's where we're kind of at, right? Is when we're displacing people from their homes, albeit maybe temporary, maybe not the best situation. We saw that in Yarmouth, right? They all got a slip under the door that said, rent's going up. It's now $100 a day instead of, it was like $25 a day or whatever it was. They jacked it up almost 3 times as much, right? Nobody could afford it. They couldn't afford it. So what they did was, because they knew people were not going to be able to afford it, they left. And then Maura Healey had the illegal immigrants who got in there, and they were paying them $100 a day.
Nice.
Paying the illegals.
The hotel place, right? Okay. Or whatever it was.
Wow.
So that was 100% displacing American citizens who were not choosing to live in a hotel, but that's all they could find. That's all they could afford. And the answer by Maura Healey is, send them all out. Tell them it's going to be $100 a day. But don't worry, I got you. And then they paid them. I mean, that's just how, I don't understand how people don't see that. Like, it's wrong. Now, look, when you look at the hotel owners and in these businesses, I don't begrudge them.
Yeah, you know the state's going to pay for it.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, and that's what makes America great. When you have the government taking advantage of the taxpayers to pay this for people that aren't supposed to be here legally, that are not here legally, that's the problem. Capitalism isn't the problem. And I've told people, hey, smart on them. As business owners, you get a phone call from the governor. Hey, I'm going to hook you up. Pay you $100 a night. Of course they're going to do it.
Right.
Yeah. And the issue is not, the issue is not only that the government is getting involved in the capitalist system, but it's that the free market is no longer making the citizen of that state, of our state, that's first priority.
Yes,
right.
It's now shoving them to the back burner, and it's making the business owner and the foreigner the first priority, which is wrong. I don't believe, and I believe that's crony capitalism, and I don't think, and I know that does not represent the conservative wing of the Republican Party, and definitely the people
and the independents,
Plymouth and Bourne and Sandwich.
There are so many independents across the state that are very frustrated. You know, they aren't as brave as we are to stand up and speak out against it, because they know there's gonna be backlash from it, right? Whether it's their jobs, their family. So they kind of keep to themselves and then hopefully go and vote the right way.
Yeah, or they leave.
The
business owners, the amount of business owners that have left, I don't know the exact numbers, but it's not good. Yeah. And that's why tax revenue is down in the state. And it's like, you want to, even the Democrats love, housing, we need affordable housing, but yet they're supporting illegals. So it's like, it doesn't, their ideologies don't make any sense. Like they're just, it's sad. So
how are we gonna solve the housing crisis in Massachusetts? Julian's here. Well, this is what we're gonna do in this one. This is what we're gonna do. So their answer was to open the floodgates to Massachusetts for illegal immigrants to come here.
Did they say that? Like to the public?
Well, that's what's happening.
What they did.
Well, but what are they saying? Are they saying the same? Are they saying the same thing than what they're doing, or are they?
You know what they're saying? One thing that Julian Sear said. I was at a Massachusetts.
Julian Sear is a Democrat. State senator.
Yes.
Who is? We had Chris Lowe's on the podcast, and Chris is running against Julian Sear.
There you go. Exactly. And he, I was at a school committee function, if you will, and we were talking about housing and workforce development. So there was like different groups that got together. And so Julian Sear was there. He kind of came in, he's the man with his little entourage. And one of the principals or superintendents, I think, said, hey, we're struggling with the workforce. We're trying to find teachers. We're trying to find more ESL teachers. I need 5. I have 1 kind of thing. But per DESE, Department of Education standards, they need to have 5 because of the percentage of students they have that are second English language learners, right? So the problem that they had was there was some pushback from Senator Sear. And he said, listen, I don't know how we're going to fix the workforce problem when it comes to housing, because housing's the issue. That's why you can't get people. So what you're going to have to do is maybe at some point, these towns are going to have to, build apartments, provide housing. When they're looking for employees and they're hiring, it might have to be part of their hiring package that we provide housing. And as I'm listening to this guy, I'm like, wait a minute. We actually have enough housing. We really do. Look at all the housing that's empty. There are projects. There are apartment buildings in the South Shore, down in the Cape, that are like, multifamily type of homes and things, completely empty. And part of it is because there's no protection for the landlords. So when it comes to people just sitting there, living in your house, not paying anything, you go to the courts and you're like, hey, listen, this guy is in my house. He's not paying. There's other people that need housing. Like, we got to do something here. They have no recourse, right? So you have senators who are sitting there saying we need to have less Airbnbs. We need to make them more year-round rentals. But then the landlords are saying, wait a minute, I don't want to turn my Airbnb into a year-round, because if these people just squat in the house and don't pay me,
Right.
I mean, it just makes no sense.
The squatting issue is a huge
It's
issue,
horrible.
especially people who go on vacation, and retirees and tourists is one of the biggest economic drives to Cape Cod and to Plymouth.
It is.
And,
It is right now. I don't know how long it's going to be though if we keep this up.
But yeah, you have people who they get going to Florida for like a month or whatever, and they come back and there's 5 cars out in front of their driveway. My pastor was telling me a story, and he's like, he goes into his house, there's like 10 people in his house, calls the police and goes, hey, there's people in my house. And the police go, oh yeah, there's nothing we can do about it. If they've been there for, I think it's like more than 30 days, they get to stay. And it's like, how backwards. And yeah, the landlords too, that's a whole nother rabbit hole, especially during COVID, the way that landlords were treated, and the fact that
Disgusting.
it was like, why would you want to stay? And you're kicking all the people that you want out, and they're bringing in people who, Trump got a lot of flack in 2016 when he was saying, I'm not going to try to do the Trump accent, but he's like, they're sending their worst. They're sending murderers. And I'm not saying all illegals are murderers or rapists, but you look at the headlines on the news, some of them,
Even one is too many.
are. Exactly. So it's like, oh, well, statistics show that, they commit, actually illegals' crime rate is lower than Americans' crime rate. Well, no. Every illegal immigrant has committed a crime, so their crime rate is 100%.
They're here illegally.
Yeah, so don't give me that honky tonk BS. But anyway, I think that would be a good segue into the whole issue of rhinos and everything, because the COVID issue was under Baker, who is allegedly a Republican, although the jury is still out on that. He had an R next to his name, but we don't know anything that makes him a Republican.
Let me say this about Governor Baker, okay? When you look at the way the Senate and the House were set up, it's very difficult for any Republican governor to really get things done that they want. Now, there are executive orders. There are some things that they can do, but there's limits on those as well.
This is true.
And that's the truth, right? Now, I will say, when it came to lockdown, I'm 100% with you.
Yeah.
But I will also say, I would love to have me some Charlie Baker right now.
That is true, I guess.
right?
Begrudgingly, I
Right?
say yes. Yes.
Begrudgingly, but
Yeah.
but it's true, right? We, people say, "Oh, we're a blue state." No, we're not a blue state. We're actually a very purpley state, honestly, because the majority of people are not happy with how things are going. They're not happy with the direction. Just you stand. I'll stand there and collect signatures, right? And I would say 2/3 of the people say, "Oh yeah, I'll sign. No, I'm independent," or "Yes, I'm definitely Republican." But the majority of them don't even vote.
Right.
They don't show up to vote. Doesn't count. What do you mean it doesn't count? It really counts for me. Now there's the argument that could be made for president, right? Because of the way things work, delegates and all that stuff, right? But at the end of the day, you have to vote. You've got to vote. There are so many people who come to me afterwards when I ran in 22 and they were like, "Oh, I was going to vote for you." I'm like, "You what?
You were.
You were going to vote for me?" Oh, so frustrating. Well, I was busy. Well, now we're in Massachusetts where you can vote all different ways. You can vote early. You can vote 2 weeks early. You can do a mail-in. You can bring your mail-in. It's insanity. It's insanity.
No ID either. No
ID.
No
No
ID.
nothing. Right? No. I actually saw there's this gentleman that does these funny reels, and you've probably seen him. He sits there just eating food. He's a handsome guy, probably in his 30s. And today he said, I think going forward, we should just do mail-in drug tests. So just mail them in. Just do them that way. No one's going to cheat, And it was talking about the mail-in ballots, right? And look, I think, people say, "Oh, about cheating and, why am I going to vote? There's, everybody cheats. The system is corrupt, this, that, and the other thing." Yeah, I think that people do cheat. People cheat when they get the mail-in ballots and they fill them out for their college kid, right?
Yeah.
There's Republicans that I know who, have said, "Oh, yeah, I just fill it out," right? So there's cheating everywhere. There's always going to be cheating. Is it a little easier now? Absolutely, right? Because you can get those mail-ins, right? Mm-hmm. But the amount of people that don't show up to vote far outweighs the amount of people that show up and cheat. That's the truth. If the people showed up who are registered to vote and actually voted, the truth about what people really want would be heard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And half of Massachusetts independents are like MAGA Republicans. Mm-hmm. Right there. But who knows? I doubt they vote.
They get frustrated.
Yeah. And that's you can say whatever even if the election is completely rigged, if you don't vote, you're guaranteeing that it's rigged.
Yeah. Just give them a walk on easier.
Yeah, it's so I think we got to wake up for sure. And definitely we need to get out to vote. And also money. It's a whole nother, I will quickly say, we say on this podcast, cash-filled conservatism. Mm-hmm. So we will have your website in the bio if people want to donate. I think conservatives have more money than Democrats. We own small businesses. We have money. We're smarter with money. We're not socialists. Mm-hmm. But we need to support people that actually represent our values and donate to them legitimately. And also start tithing. And, I finally repented and started tithing this month. So Sam got me on that. But find time, make a budget, find time in your budget, and donate to candidates like you that are actually going to stand up. So I want to, we did touch on the rhino issue a little bit. So we will get in, you obviously have a primary.
Yep.
And, so you're going.
When is the primary?
September 3rd.
All right, September 3rd.
September.
Mark the calendar. Mm-hmm. Make it a holiday for you.
Make it Macrae.
Make it a
even
holiday.
2 weeks before.
Yeah.
Right?
There we go.
Go on a nice vacation, come back, and then we'll have, hopefully your candidate will be in. But yeah, so Matt Muratori, obviously, he's state rep for Plymouth, and he's your primary opponent.
Yes.
We won't. I know Matt. He's a nice guy.
Yep. He's a nice guy.
He is a nice guy.
Got a beautiful family, 6 beautiful little, daughters. Yeah. He's a nice guy.
And I think he's well-intentioned and everything.
I agree.
But his voting record, and this is the problem with Republicans in Massachusetts, we've seen his voting record is not conservative.
Pretty. As my husband says, it's ugly.
Yeah.
It doesn't reflect the Republican values that he purports to uphold.
Yeah. And what do you think? I mean, they say, I've talked to him a little bit, and other Republicans who I would tend to call rhinos. Why do you think they just vote with Democrats consistently? Is it they think that they're getting something in the long run? Do they think that they're playing the long game and that they're like, oh, if we build a bridge here, we do this? Or do we give them a less charitable interpretation, or are they just naive and stupid? Because to me, like from the outside looking in, it seems like some, I'm not saying Matt specifically, some Republicans, even in DC, anywhere, like it's like, do you not see that you're voting with them? And like Democrats are smart. Like these are college educated people. Well, that doesn't make them smart, but they know, they've gone through, they've taken their psychology courses, and they're good manipulators, and they're smart.
Strong. They
and they're
work
strong.
together.
They work together, exactly. So what do you think the motive behind that is for Republicans to just go along with Democrats?
I think it's a balance of different things. I think part of it is, you know, there'll be bills that a bunch of, you know, things they really want to sign off on and get approved. Then they'll see some crap in it, and they'll sit there and say, well, geez, you know, I really wanted to get this for my community, so I'm going to vote yes on it. Now, a Republican's voice in the House and the Senate right now doesn't really hold much weight. But what holds weight is standing up for your principle and be the principle of it and showing your integrity and saying, you know what? I really want to bring that money back to Plymouth. I really want to bring that money back to Bourne, Sandwich, and so on and so forth. But I do not, and I know that the people that put me in office do not support us spending $85 million on illegals. So because that is part of this whole bill, I'm going to vote no. At the end of the day, the bill's going to pass.
Right.
So it's a twofer for you, right? You stand there and you say, I'm going to stand on the principles, and I'm saying I'm voting no because of this one thing. If you want to pull it out separate, we'll talk. But until you do, no, I'm voting no.
Yeah.
And you explain that to your constituents.
Yeah, and
hey,
this is what you voted me in. This is what representative democracy is. You know, you represent Plymouth and Barnstable, so you should value the interests of Plymouth and Barnstable.
Exactly.
And so, yeah, I completely, I like it. And but what do you think? Is there a place in which Democrats will say, if you don't vote yes for this bill, we will take money away from your community?
Oh,
and
absolutely.
How do you navigate that?
Absolutely. Well, I think it becomes a point. You just have to be the truth teller. You have to get you have to get out in front of, do press releases. The press is there every time. You know, show up and say, excuse me, I want to make a statement. I want you to put this out there. I do not support this because I know my constituents who elected me do not support this. So I voted no on this today. Not because I didn't want them to get XYZ, but because this is wrong. This is wrong. It should not be all bundled. That's what they need to do. And if the Republicans in office sit there and say, and we hear it all the time, well, it's hard to get things done because there's only a few of us. But they're not hitting the ground, knocking on people's doors and saying, I need you to run in my district. We need you on the school committee. We need you in the select board. We need you in all these different things. They should be trying to rally the troops to make it so that when they are up there at the State House arguing, that they have communities, leaders in communities who are going to go to bat for them. Hey, I need all of you guys to meet me at the State House on Friday, because they want to try to shove this down your throat, and I'm against it. I need you guys to show the force behind it.
Boom.
So that's part of it too.
Yeah.
So yes, it might be hard to get certain things done, but you know what? There's a lot of things that we can do that they don't do right now. Like as a state senator, Christopher Favor, he's great. He gives me all these little tidbits. He's a wealth of knowledge. I don't know where he stores it all. It's crazy the amount of information he has in his brain. And one thing he said, when you're a senator, you can actually stand up and say roll call vote. So every single time they vote, somebody should be standing up and saying roll call vote. And all it takes is you or me next year looking over at one of the other gentlemen, senators, or maybe a couple women will get in. There's a few other women running across the state and say, hey, I'm going to say roll call vote, and you guys second it. And now, the way everybody votes, it's going to be documented. They hardly ever do it.
Why aren't they documented already?
Because they vote and they don't put their vote out there.
What? That's
That
crazy.
ain't right.
Transparency.
Come on.
What?
Yeah.
Right? Transparency is a huge thing. The bills that I have from Dylan Fernandez and Matt Muratori, those were roll call votes. Imagine all the times that he voted with the Democrats, or Dylan voted for some crazy stuff. And we don't even know, because the majority of the time they don't have to, show how they're voting.
Well, I think you roll call vote every single time.
Every time.
That's how it's
That's my plan.
obviously.
Every time.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
And if they get less done because of it, fine. They don't need to
If I
do
have
any
drive
more.
back the next day, so be
Yeah,
it.
they're spending enough money, so.
It's just crazy because people need to. You have state auditor.
Ziglio, right?
DeZiglio. Thank you.
Ziglio.
That was perfect. I always mess it up.
I said Ziglio, not DeZiglio. My bad.
DeZiglio, but yeah,
Ziggy
right?
Ziggy.
Yeah, Ziggy, right? So, anyways, she wants to audit the state legislator, and they were like, "Excuse me, no, thank you." Now, interesting enough, she was a state rep, and she wants to audit them. Maybe
Good
she
for
knows
her.
something.
And she's a Democrat. Good for her.
And she's a Democrat, right? So when people say, "Oh, are you going to be able to work with Democrats?" Absolutely. I'm on the school board. I think they're all Democrats. We work very well together. Got through some hurdles, and we work great together, right? The same thing with Diana. If you're doing the right thing for the constituents, I'm with you. If you're a Democrat, I'm with you. I met with a labor union president the other day. Now you think labor, right? And you're like, oh, labor unions, mostly Democrat usually. The
Higher ups.
the higher ups.
Yeah.
Thank you. Right. We had a great conversation, and it was very enlightening and very frustrating to hear about how some of our legislators, are treating their legislative aides and the staff. A couple of stories I heard was horrible. And those are people that are up there fighting, saying we need more equity and tolerance and, all these, buzzwords the Democrats throw at us, right? And then to hear how the majority of them are treating their staff, it was so
were you
frustrating.
What were you hearing?
Well, a couple. One woman was asked to take an online IQ test and send her rep the results.
Who asked her to do this?
Oh, I can't say. I don't even know who it was. I don't even know who the rep was. But a rep asked his support staff, obviously frustrated with something she did or didn't do, and said, you know what, do me a favor. Go over there, take an online IQ test, and send me the results. Like, can you imagine?
Such a weird.
If I heard anybody degrade somebody like that, it's not going to be pretty. It's just wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
it
then
is.
someone else stood up, and it was a group of staffers, about 10 or 12 of them, very new, all kind of like hearing the ropes, and it was like a meeting with, I think it was a state senator. This young lady spoke up and said, oh, I have an idea. And she goes, he puts his hand out and says, excuse me, do you not see a man is speaking?
What?
Guys.
And I said to this gentleman, he goes, I'm telling you, she called up crying. Like, these are the kinds of things that are happening up there.
Was this a Democrat?
There's a Democrat.
That wasn't very woke of him.
Right? So it's do as I do, right? Or do as I always mess up those phrases, but
Do as I say, not as I do.
Not as I do. And it seems like that's constantly what they're doing up there. It's not right. It's not right. And we need people that are going to go up there and are going to push back on that. Like, the frustrating part about that whole conversation too was there were like 12 other people there, other staffers, and didn't say a word.
That's kind of the spirit of it up there. That's how it is.
Yeah. Because they don't want their rep or, senator to get blocked or You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's
and I think
crazy.
like they're holding, like, going back to the whole like they're holding the people of Massachusetts hostage basically by saying, if you don't go along with that, you're holding the people hostage. And I think people need to say, I voted no on this bill, and now you don't have this, not because of me, but because they held that hostage. And then that gives you firepower to go when a Republican challenges an incumbent Democrat to say, no, this person doesn't actually care about the people of Massachusetts. Look what they did to the people in Plymouth. They held them hostage.
Yep.
And they weren't able to get their wharf dredged or whatever in Plymouth, or like those are things that might happen.
The Democratic Party has so much entrenched power in Massachusetts. They can run it like they run it like a gang.
Yeah.
I mean, they threaten
Like a mob.
They run it like a mob. They threaten. They use force, coercion, extortion, because they have so much unchecked power.
Even amongst the Democrats, you have two people in charge that are running things: Spilka and Mariano. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
They are the ones. They are the ones that run everything. It's the two of them. That's a problem. And the majority of even the Democrats, I hear, there's a handful that are very frustrated with that. Because there are some Democrats, even legislative Democrats, who, are pro-life, pro-Second Amendment, and they're Democrats because of this, and this. And maybe because they're smart, because they realize
Logic,
it's a
common
way to get in, right? Logic, common sense,
maybe,
right?
okay.
Yeah, run as a
We'll
Democrat, I'm in, right? So who knows,
We will
right?
see, yeah.
But there are a few of them. And the decorum and just the way they treat each other when they're on the Senate floor and things like that, it goes to everybody. It's not just against the Republicans. It's even just disrespect against fellow Democrats. So there are Democrats who are frustrated with how things are run up there right now because they don't like the progressive liberal stuff. They're like, JFK kind of Democrats, right?
Classical liberals, yeah.
Yeah, different.
And even the auditor, like, shout out, what's
Doing
her
the
name?
right
Ziggy.
Yep.
We need to, like, support her, get behind her and say, yeah, let's audit the legislator. That's one of the things we talked to.
And why are they pushing back on? Why is the
Why is no one
why
talking about
is
that?
why are the state representatives hiding?
That's a big deal.
Well, it's not. It's Mariano.
Okay, is it him
And
who's
it's
pushing
Zilka.
back on it?
Yes. Or whatever her name is. Yeah. Those.
What's their net worth?
Well, and that's right. I'm telling you,
Yeah.
it's crazy. Oh, we self-audit. That's what I said. We self-audit. Self-audit. Tell the IRS that. No, it's all set. I double-checked. Your numbers are good, right? Come on.
Imagine any
that's
normal
not-
person saying that.
Doesn't work that way. Doesn't work that way. And then that makes you what? Makes you want to audit them even more.
Yeah. Makes
And
me more
she's not-
suspicious.
That's right. And she's not backing off.
Good for her.
Which is good for her. I'm going to try to get in a meeting with her.
Isn't there going to be like a referendum? Doesn't she want to put a referendum on the ballot so have the people vote for an audit?
Yep.
Can we get
Vote for that.
Is that gonna? Do you know how that's doing? Is that?
I don't know the
Yeah.
updates on it, but I
Man,
think it'll probably happen. It'll happen.
Yeah, I want to reach out to her.
Yeah.
Ask her personally
Yep.
about that.
Let's make it
That's
happen.
crazy. That's
Yeah.
crazy. So bringing it back to Matt Muratori, let's go through. Obviously, we're not attacking him as a person, his character, whatever. We're just
No.
his voting record. What are a few of things on his voting record that you feel go against the values of the people of Plymouth and Sandwich, etc.?
Well, there are a few. And it's more because if you say one thing and then do another, right? That's where I get frustrated. So when it comes to like Second Amendment, he's like, oh, I'm pro Second Amendment and blah, 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 blah. But then he voted in favor of the red flag bill. Now, the red flag bill, even some people who are not anti-Second Amendment, right? Who believe, yes, you should, but there should be some, right? So there's some people that are a little wishy-washy on it. The red flag bill basically makes it so anybody, mental health person or a concerned family member can go make a report and say, hey, I'm worried about this person doing harm to him or this or that. And they go and they pull your guns. And then
No due process.
No due process.
Yeah.
None. Like that's
Yeah.
You can just make it up
you can make it up.
if you're trying to disarm an enemy.
Well, yeah.
Make
What
it up.
if like say a family member who's a woman, she carries the guns are great equalizers for women who could get raped or any of these
Yeah.
things. And imagine a family member who wants to go, or anybody
Yeah.
that is a close friend or whatever, because I think that
Yeah.
applies too.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Does that and goes, oh, I can just say they're crazy and disarm them.
Yeah.
And boom, now you have a free opportunity. It's like, what? I don't know. I'm the only one thinking about that, I guess.
Well, and it's, and, and it's that slippery slope, right?
Yeah.
And that's why I feel like we keep going is it's like people say, oh, how did we get to where we are today? Well, it's because we allowed it.
Yeah.
We allowed it. We didn't push back. We didn't stand our ground. I went to a gun club the other night just showed up. Me and my husband just showed up and wanted to introduce myself, and they don't vote. So the percentage, I remember Jay McMahon told me that. He was like, Carrie, goes, I was pulling the numbers and I'm looking and I'm like, after his election, one year he went and polled like all these people that had signed, petitions about gun rights and so on and so forth. And then he cross-referenced them and all this. And it was something like 30% of the registered gun owners vote. And so when I spoke a couple of weeks ago, I said, listen, you guys need to become little activists. You need to knock on doors. You need to tell people they're coming after your right to defend yourself. And they're not going to stop there. I mean, we see what's happening right now in the Senate, right? And then you have Bruce Tarr, the minority leader, who said, listen, I am not for automatic AKs and all those, automatic guns. So he voted in favor with all the Democrats.
Oh boy.
And I watched it. I was there and I'm looking at this whole mess. Everybody's ignoring each other. It was just repulsive. As a teacher, I'll tell you, I'm going to be like, excuse me, I'm talking. You need to be quiet. Excuse me, Senator Sear, stop. I know it's exciting. Sit down and listen to me, right? That's what they
Here's
need.
your sippy cup. Calm down.
Like, woohoo, right? All kidding aside, there's like no decorum with any of them. Those are the leaders of our state, and we wonder why things are a mess.
Yeah.
They won't even sit and listen to each other. Just 40 of you. Sit down, let one person talk, and listen.
I know, a room of 40 people shouldn't, it's not.
Oh, it's bad.
It shouldn't
you
be
should go
that.
up and watch it. It was mortifying.
Once you get in, we
Just
will.
be booing from the audience.
I know. Oh, it was horrible. Horrible. I totally went off topic. One of them that he voted in favor of was giving tax dollars to support Planned Parenthood, expanding Planned Parenthood, and encompassing trans, surgeries and all that. It's all in one bill, and he voted in favor of that.
Really? Is it for minors too, or is it
Minors too.
for trans
Minors.
surgeries for minors?
There was one for adults, and then that went so well, they did a second one for kids. And he voted in favor of both of them.
That's rough.
It's rough.
That's like, and that's no joke. Like, that's not stuff where it's like, even the red flag laws is ridiculous to us
Yeah.
as conservatives, but that's like something that should be so
reprehensible.
Like take us like, and whether you want to say abortion, whatever. Although,
Yeah.
again, but it should be such a common sense issue where it's like we can't allow kids.
These transgender kids who are being violated, they're not in the womb. You can't argue like, oh, they're not alive,
Yeah,
so we can
exactly.
do whatever
You
we
can't
want to.
even make- yeah.
But like, these are actual kids
Yeah.
that are having double mastectomies and hysterectomies because of a mental delusion.
Because of and that's it. It's gender dysphoria. This is my argument all the time with people. I'm like, listen, we're validating. I was just talking to my dad because he gets all upset with me. I get a little too much. He's like, honey, so what did you do? Did you feed your chickens today? And I'm like, but Dad, I want to talk about this. He's like, so how many chickens do you have? And I'm like, all right, I get the point. Because, ignorance is bliss, right? Yeah. When you don't know what's going on, it's such a happier life, right? Until it's not, right? Until it hits you in the face. And then you're like, wait a minute, what's going on?
Until it's your kid that is in the public schools.
Kid.
You were telling, or your husband was telling me about in the public school. Tell us what they say to teachers in public schools, to kids who are being transitioned by these doctors, by these evil doctors who don't have any actual medical basis for anything that they're doing to these kids. Mm-hmm. Tell us what goes on with the public school teachers or the teachers.
Well, and it's really sad gonna take this approach too, because it's sad for the teachers.
Yeah.
Because the teachers are told you cannot disclose what's going on with this child. If the social workers come to you and say, hey, listen, just want to let you go. You got a new student. You know, her name is Chelsea. But you'll notice that on the paperwork and birth certificates and all that stuff to file with the school, it's John. But the parents do not agree with her identifying as Chelsea. But HIPAA laws protect her right to identify as Chelsea. So you need to respond to her as Chelsea, use everything. Her parents do not know. Her parents have been struggling with mental health with her because she does have gender dysphoria.
Yeah.
She's been going to a counselor, but Chelsea decided that she wants us to call her Chelsea. In the system with recording her grades, everything is going to be Chelsea. Her Google site that you're going to set up, it's going to be Chelsea. But with the parents, when the parents come in for teacher conference, there's a reminder meeting to let you know, listen, remember, it's John.
Right now it's John.
Oh
Right
my
now it's John.
goodness.
John's parents are coming in.
That is
Is
deception.
this an example that you're making up,
That
or is
is
this a
an
real thing?
actual
What school?
truthful example in Falmouth.
Falmouth High School.
Nope, a middle school.
Middle school.
That is like
What?
that is deception. That is wicked. That is wicked.
It's just one.
Yeah, that's just one.
That's just one. This is happening everywhere. And the problem is, and this is why, I have my signs to say parental rights, for parental rights.
Yeah.
Kari Macrae, for parental rights, okay?
People don't understand what that means.
No,
though.
this
In today's
is what
world.
it's about.
Yeah.
This is what it's
Like,
about.
oh, why is it such a big deal? Just let them do it. This isn't about adults making decisions about. This is doctors, and a lot of them they brainwash these kids genuinely, and it's not a conspiracy theory. You hear the stories from the detransitioners. We need to. I don't know. Have they had a detransitioner up in Beacon Hill ever to testify about what
Probably
actually?
not, but I don't know.
goes
Maybe
on?
they have. Maybe
they
they
have.
have, right?
Yeah.
Maybe they checked
The
that
box, yeah.
Because that's they do a lot.
Yeah.
They'll check the box. Oh, we heard. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Have some coffee on the way out, right? That's they do.
Yeah.
It's just checking the box.
And you know
if
what?
you even get that.
You know what? Like, this actually pisses me off because of the hypocrisy. During COVID, okay, you say HIPAA laws is the reason why doctors can't talk about this.
Yep.
But yet, the state can force private schools to reveal the vaccine information about the kids in their schools. This is like a lawsuit in Connecticut, I think, a private Christian school there. They were trying to take all his licenses away to teach because he wouldn't reveal the vaccine. So
I know.
what happened
They're
to
weaponizing
What
the HIPAA
happened to
law, yeah.
HIPAA? What happened to HIPAA? What happened to
They're weaponizing it. You're absolutely right.
like that's like so oh well HIPAA doesn't apply. I mean
Well, and you know what's crazy? That same student, and I want to say that young boy, I want to say was like 12 or 13, okay? That same student will not be able to sign himself out to go across the street and get a Milky Way, right?
but
That same student, that mother can't come pick up her kid without calling first, sending a note, right? It just makes no sense. There's no common sense to it at all whatsoever. And I say I feel bad for the teachers because I hear from teachers. I hear teachers send me emails. Hey, we just got this lesson, or we just got that. Is there anything you can do? Can you bubble this up? I know they're going to give you a hard time. It's craziness. And there are a lot of teachers today who are in these schools who are very frustrated and feel like if they speak up, you're out the door.
oh yeah.
If you push back, you're out the door. And they have families. They have housing they have to pay for and food they have to pay for, right?
yeah.
Insurance they have to pay for.
It's sad. And that's those even the two even that reason enough should be a reason why people should not vote for Matt Muratori and should vote for you. Respectfully, all bias aside, if you're a genuine conservative,
or somebody with common sense who
and
realizes
somebody with-
that a child that has gender dysphoria, we should not, they talk about, the suicide rate amongst transgenders, especially younger, right? Teenage and younger kids. Suicide rate is crazy. And I remember a meeting that I was at with my husband, and he said, everybody kept going. They were attacking me or whatever. And these people were going up and they're like, do you realize the suicide rate amongst transgenders and, transgender children and people like you who are not accepting and are speaking out, there are children that are going to kill themselves because of you. I mean, it was crazy. It was an hour of this, back and forth, back and forth. And when we left the meeting, of which I had a face mask on because we had to wear face masks, but I had peace signs on it. A little sarcastic, because it was not very peaceful. But my husband said to me, all I kept hearing about was how horrible it is and how dangerous it is and how deadly it is to be transgender. Why are we encouraging our kids to jump on board? And I thought, when he said it, I was like, oh my gosh, David, I didn't even really think about it like that. So now we have a society who is not only embracing, but encouraging people that you can't just be a gay boy. You must really want to be a girl. And that's wrong, right? Talk about accepting.
I know.
Let's accept the boy. I had a woman that was at my event the other night, and she identifies herself as, she's a straight woman, but she's, I forget what she said. I don't want to misquote her, but she goes, when I go places, people just assume that, I might be lesbian. I wear my boots and my, my stereotypical, short haircut thing. She's like, if I grew up, this is just who I am. This is my husband. I love my life. She's like, I don't like getting fruit up. I don't like, that's just not me, right? I like the short hair because it's easier. Whatever. She kept just saying things. She goes, but me, when I was 12 years old, in today's schools, they be trying to change me to a guy. They be saying, you should get surgery and do this and do that and take hormones and you can get a beard. And she goes, that's wrong. This is just who I am. And this is the problem too. Tomboys, they want to switch them. Yeah. It's not, you can't just be a tomboy. You can't just be a kid.
And it's that and again, parents don't even know that this is going on.
Exactly.
Like Chloe Cole, her parents assumed doctors have your kid's best interest in mind.
Yeah. They're going to kill themselves if you don't do this.
Yeah. They threaten. It's like, oh man. And and especially if you make it, if we as Republicans are supporting laws, the law should be a representation of what is good, of what is right, what is just. And if the law
truth
and what is true, and if kids grow up with the law that says, the law says this is okay, what are they they're gonna assume this is okay, this is normal. Yeah. And then so in 30 years, who knows if we keep going, everyone is just gonna be confused and you can't just tell kids
you can't
just
validate
accept everything kids do.
That's
you
exactly
can't just,
right.
Imagine telling
Bill
one
Maher?
day they're a clown, next they're like a tiger.
Right.
And
Look at Bill, I think it was Bill Maher that went on the radio, and and he's usually more left, and he was on his show, whatever, and he was like, listen, things are just getting a little crazy, guys. When I was a kid, I wanted to be a pirate. He's like, can you imagine if my mother cut off my leg and cut off my hand, right?
I mean, seriously.
He goes, seriously. He's like, I'm not trying to be funny here, guys, but this is what we're doing. We're cutting children to meet the need of what they think they want to be.
Yeah, it's insanity.
He's like, I wanted to be a pirate. I'm glad my mother had some common sense. He said, and it's true. That's what we're doing. And at the end of the day, it's gender dysphoria. If somebody has schizophrenia, right? We're not just going to acknowledge that it's okay for them to do X, Y, Z.
Right.
To just go off and do what you think is right. No, because we know that they have a medical problem.
And they're going to self-destruct.
They're going to hurt people. They're going to hurt others, right? We don't just acknowledge that that's just who they are. And hey, let's, no, you don't do that. Yeah. And with these kids, we are validating In adults, it's one thing. You're an adult. Do your thing, whatever. Children, we're validating their gender dysphoria. They have a problem. It's sad.
Yeah.
I feel so bad for these
I
kids.
know.
But as adults, and then the other part is we have therapists in Massachusetts. It's against the law to, and this was a bill I believe that Matt Moratori signed off on as well, and so did Julian Sear and Dylan Fernandez. But it basically takes control. It takes the ability for therapists to question if whether or not their gender dysphoria or their self-diagnosed gender dysphoria is really what the problem is. Like, you can't second guess them. It's against the law. There's like
Oh, man.
That's literally not
phrase.
therapy, though.
So it's
Therapy is like, hey, I'm broken. Can you help fix me? You don't
they
come to a
put it all
therapist
in.
and be
Exactly,
They don't
but
come to a therapist and be like, hey, this is the way I am. Accept me, please. It's like
And
that's
that-
not how therapy works.
Here's the problem: is they're going to therapists, right? The parents are saying we're going to bring in a therapist, or the schools, right? They're doing therapy at schools, right? And it's everywhere. Sometimes parents don't even know. So kids are getting therapy, and they're saying, "Well, I'm depressed, and it's this," and I think it's because I really know in my heart I'm a girl, and I was born in this body as a boy, and I don't identify as this way, and this is why I'm depressed, and this is why nobody accepts me, right? So they self-diagnose as soon as that child or person says, and it's adults too, my woes are because I'm in the wrong body. The therapist cannot say, maybe that's not what it is. They can't. They can't. It's against the law. I
Wow.
heard from a therapist. She goes, oh yeah, you can't. Can't question it. You got to try to go this way and that way, but you can't.
Isn't that
question
just?
that.
This is one thing I like
But
to.
it's gender dysphoria.
It is. I mean,
It's a medical.
but isn't that? Hold on, Carrie. Too much common sense. You have to stop. We can't do that. Come on. No. But when it's like, and it's a false sense of acceptance too. When you really think about it, it's saying you have to get a double mastectomy. You have to take all these hormones, and then you'll be okay.
And then look what happens.
You'll be right. And then they get there, and it's never enough because humans, we are never enough to accept ourselves. We know we have shame, we have guilt, we have things that we know that is wrong. So from a Christian perspective, or even just a logical perspective, I can tell you as a Christian, I can say, you know what you're going through is terrible. It's difficult. It's tough. And I'm sorry you're going through that. But you are valuable because you are made in the image of God. And
Not because of your sexuality.
not because of your sexuality, not because of anything that I can do or whatever. And it's like, it's such a fault. Like, it's sad. And it's like, God forbid you say somebody's made in the image of God. That's so terrible. You can't, that's so partial. But yet you can tell a kid to go.
Yeah, and not only made in the image of God, but loved and fully pursued by an eternal creator. Like, that is so much more done for this child who has gender dysphoria than anything any medical professional could do, or a psychiatrist could ever do, or a teacher could ever do. Because they're saying, like, I'm going to piggyback off what you said, there's something wrong with you. I think you should be different. And now
That's
you're messing with the
exactly
kid's mind.
Yeah.
On a therapeutic perspective, you don't tell a kid that there's something inherently wrong with you, and we have to go through
No, you have to accept
violent
who you
surgery.
are. Yeah.
But it's like they twist it by saying, accept who you are. Like, this is who you really are.
Yeah,
But
they
in
twist it,
reality,
you're right.
to this kid, who still technically has common sense, because a lot of kids have more common sense than most adults these days.
I agree.
They think they hear what the teacher's saying, and since they're young, they believe the adults because they think adults know everything and they're always right. They're like, okay, well, he says this is a girl, pretend I'm a girl, whatever. And like, oh, that's funny. All right, well, like, oh, my teacher said I'm a boy, but I look in the mirror and I'm a girl, and mom and dad tell me I'm a girl.
Yeah.
But yet my teacher says I'm a boy because of some of the things that I do differently than other girls.
Yeah.
That's so destructive
Yes.
to a child's psyche, and that will set them up for failure in life, because it puts these kids on these drugs for the rest of their life, and if they go off of it, they'll die.
Yep.
Or it's crazy. So it really comes down to money, honestly.
Yep. Absolutely.
These
Money, control.
enormous pharmaceutical companies are profiting so much off of the mutilation of little kids. I know. And we look, and yet we think we're so sophisticated in our society.
Then you go to countries where, and I've seen like interviews with like, people in like, the Amazon, right? And they'll go to like these tribes and they'll have conversations and say, hey, did you think that, he could be a woman? And they all start laughing.
Yeah.
They're like, what? No. The leader, whatever is like, what? No.
Yeah, funny. Yeah.
And then they show them things and they're like, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So what that tells me is the truth is being twisted by the media. The truth is being twisted by like cultural shifts that we're trying to do somehow.
Yeah.
And I don't know why.
What it is it's religion.
Yeah.
It's legitimately religion. You give up God. You take prayer out of public schools. You don't allow the free expression of religion in schools. What do you get? Oh, another religion propped up. Big surprise. Oh, didn't see that one coming.
Yeah, humans are made to worship. We're going to worship something.
We're going to worship
God
something.
doesn't exist.
Yeah.
We're either going to worship ourselves. We're going to worship the government.
Yep.
We're going to worship our medication.
Yep.
And
Money.
Yeah, that's a huge one.
Yep.
And it is like a cult.
Yeah.
It is like a cult.
Absolutely.
We worship this spiritual belief to believe that gender and sex are two different things, and that you can this whole mystical religion that honestly it's not new. It's happened. It's been around for thousands of years in Eastern religions. Pagan religions have transgenderism. Like, I'm not even kidding. It's not like a new thing in the past 20 years. And it's just paganism resurfacing. And it's cultish. It really is, because it's sacrificing children.
Yeah, it is.
On an altar. Now, not literally. It used to be literally. Back thousands of years ago, there would be child sacrifice, but now they're cutting up kids.
And you look at any cult, even just now, modern day cults. You could watch plenty of documentaries on Netflix.
Yep.
What do they do when they get you to join the cult? They tell you that you are wrong about everything, about the way everything you think you're wrong. You need to change and become exactly like our cult. There's like 50 of us. We know. Yep. We know what's right for you.
We'll show you the way.
We know what's right. We'll show you the way. We'll show you. You can't. Don't question it. Don't tell your parents.
Yes.
Don't tell your parents. Don't tell your friends. Just join us. We want what's best for you.
Mm-hmm. I think that's the most scary part too, is the don't tell your parents.
I know.
We have spent generations telling our children, you tell me everything. You don't hide from me. I'm your parent. I will do the best for you. I will care for you. I've had conversations with people who are like, well, there are children that can't even go home and tell their parents they're gay because they'll kill them. And I'm like, and you guys send them home? If you really believe that this child's father or mother will kill that child, why the hell would you send them home? Call DSS. Go to the court. Get them involved. But do not keep the parents out of the equation.
Yeah.
I've read stories of parents come home and find their children hanging in their closet. And then they read a book. They read their diary. They're struggling with their identity. No one's accepting them as this. Their parents are accepting them as wanting to be this. All the while, the schools and social workers at the schools, under the guise of HIPAA, are working to accept these children. Then those children come home where in their minds they're not accepted and they're more depressed because they're hiding from their parents. I mean, that's part of the problem too.
Yeah.
And we're not supposed to lie. We're not supposed to lie. And if you think that the parents are that bad, take them away from the parents then.
Seriously.
And you know what's going to happen? It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Because then the truth will come out. They'll have conversations. There'll be meetings of the minds with the parents and their kids. And they'll work together as a family unit. What they're trying to do is pull the kids away from the family unit. pull them away from the families, change more of I mean, we see it across all different cultures and everything, right? And the strong cultures that are together with their families and strong with their families and supportive, large families, uncles, brothers, cousins, right? There's more health,
Yeah.
well-being, mindful, mental health. Those problems are usually managed through, not in some drastic thing or hiding it from your parents.
Yeah.
It's wrong.
Yeah.
And in Massachusetts, it's against the law for schools and therapists to get parents involved. If the kid says, I don't want my parent involved, that's wrong. That's something I, as a legislator, will try to change. I will fight to change that back because it's wrong.
Yeah.
There are children. They're not the governments. They're not the doctors. It's wrong.
Amen. I mean, that's too controversial. You can't get elected saying things like that, but it's like, this is common sense that everybody knows. Oh, but you don't have 18 degrees you don't have doctor, PhD next to your name, so you couldn't possibly know
And
that.
you say, what about your kid? Would you want your child, because I've said this to people who are more liberal. I'm like, oh, so you'd be all right. You're telling me right now you'd be all right if your kid, whatever the kid's name was, I had a couple conversations, was doing things behind your back, medical things behind your back, life-altering things behind your back. But don't worry, the schools are taking care of it. The principal.
They've got it under control.
They got it under control.
What do they say to that?
There you go. They don't like it. And that's the problem. People don't realize it's against the law for them to tell you if your little Johnny says, I don't want to tell my parents.
Yeah, this needs to be.
That's insane.
Yeah, this should be a uniting issue for Republicans. We should get behind this and say, hey, we are actually the party of common sense. We know that these things are crazy and ridiculous, and we can say, just
we have
simple.
to push back and we have to speak the truth. And if we push back and we speak the truth, and as legislators, we push back and we speak the truth, we'll get more people elected that are like-minded because they'll speak the truth and they'll be like, oh, wow, that person's for it too. They're going to stand it. They're going to push back like she just did.
Yeah.
I'm good with that, right? That's what we need to do.
Awesome.
And there should be a balance because there are some things the Democrats look at a different perspective. And there are the liberal, progressive radicals that want to take everything away from us. No, I'm good with them. Nope, no problem. You guys need to go. But there are people who might be softer on, immigration, might be softer on certain things, but also look at some things that are happening with their kids and aren't okay with that.
Right.
And that's where I think we have to have more of a balance. And right now in the State House, there's no balance. And then we have people that get elected that tell us they're going to do this. I'm going to stand for that for you. Then they go up there and they make a couple of good votes the first couple of years. And then they become complacent and bought and just want to keep their seats.
Yeah.
That's a problem.
That's crazy. I mean,
It's not right for us.
we've got Republicans compromising on their values.
Yep.
We don't know why. I mean, we have our speculations.
Yeah.
And we've got Democrats ruining our state.
Yep.
What do you bring to the table that is different from the current Republican Party that is totally, hopefully, opposite to the current Democratic Party and the regime that they are running in Massachusetts?
People say about, transparency. There's a way for us to really give the information to the public. Nobody knows the crap that's going on up there. I will be somebody who will bring it back and tell everybody what's going on. I will be somebody who
Have a Facebook Live during a, I don't know if you do this, but like during a vote maybe, and be like, oh,
or as soon as you walk out.
he just voted, that Republican just voted for transgenderism.
Honestly, that's what we
Roast
can
him
do.
in the comments.
And that's what we need to do. Spread the word and let people know this is what's happening. They were supposed to have another debate and they didn't have it. And they just said that I voted. I never showed up at a meeting. Isn't that interesting? Right? Those types of things. Look, the 2-year term, right? I've told people, give me a shot. You don't like me, you vote me out.
Yeah.
It's very simple. But I'll tell you right now, when I go up there, everybody's going to know who I am. They already do. That's why they have Matt Moratori running against me. Because they knew that I would be somebody. Listen, I battled cancer.
Wow.
I had stage 3 breast cancer like almost 8 years ago. And I swear from there, it was like, okay, well, I can just kind of just go through my life, or I can mess stuff up. Kept it cheap, right? Because I'll tell you, we need people that are going to stand up and push back. We need people that are really going to show us as constituents what's really happening, why our gas is so expensive, why my daughters can't afford to rent, and even in a 2-bedroom apartment in New Bedford, they can't afford it. And they're making over $20-something an hour, right? These reasons are because of the legislation and because of the governor. You know, she's handing out $1,000 a night, you know, for hotels. How much? That's $3,000 a month, right? For one person, $3,000 a month. That's why my daughter's struggling paying $1,750 for a 2-bedroom on the 3rd floor in Fall River. $1,750 a month. That's just her rent.
And that's a good deal.
And that's a good deal. 3rd floor behind a hospital. I mean, you know, not great. Look, $1,750. It's insane, more than I pay for my mortgage. It's crazy, right? And all of this is happening because we, as legislators, we as and you know, people that are in control of our state, are making poor decisions that are resulting in this. You know, I believe in term limits too. I'm a big fan of term limits because I feel like then you can't be bought. It makes it harder for the all these different organizations and companies that come and try to buy you, right? So when I look at what things I can do as a Republican, and maybe the 5th or 6th, maybe the 7th Republican, right? Maybe there'll be a big storm of people getting elected that are Republicans. We can unite and we can speak up. And we can also call out the people that aren't speaking up. And I have no problem going against a fellow Republican, in name only, as they say. We had a gentleman the other day in Sandwich that literally said, hey, listen, I'm running for state, moderator, the town of Sandwich. And he said, I'm a rhino. People say I'm a rhino, so, but at least I'm Republican. And I literally
Was that like
looked
the
at my
committee? Was that the
husband.
committee meeting?
It was at the
Sandwich.
Monday sandwich meeting.
Oh
Yeah.
my goodness.
And I looked at my husband and I'm like, are you serious? That man just like
At least he's honest.
Admitted he's a
and
rhino.
said, you are a Republican in name only. We can't afford any more of those. We can't afford
we
any
can't.
more of those. If you're not going to fight, if you're not going to push back, you speaking, yeah, I know it's tough and it's bad. And we're going to hear Rep. Moratori, right? Oh, you don't understand what it's like up there. And, you know, they're spending money that's crazy. And well, what are you doing to push back, Matt? Because that's what I'm going to say to him in the debates. What are you doing to push back? How do you push back? Give me an example. There's none. Mm-hmm. He just votes and complains on his way home, maybe. That's it. We can't afford that.
Yeah.
We need people that are going to go in there and say, excuse me, I'm talking. Be respectful. This is how we're running our state house. I mean, it's crazy to see what they do. Mm-hmm. I will speak up. The other thing I can say, too, is I can kind of, as a senator, there's some phrase that you could do. Again, Chris Favor told me, where you can basically say this phrase and it makes them go to recess. So you say, you know what? And I don't even need any of these guys to support me on that one. It stops. And it's like a recycle for like 24 hours. We have to go back 24 hours. So if you hear things that just make no sense, you know the constituents haven't even had an opportunity to stand up and speak. You can sit there and say, you know what? I'm not good with this right now. We're going to recess. Only me, just one. I never hear them doing it.
We could have used that during the gun bill.
Exactly. Exactly.
That's
Could have used
crazy.
4 of
One
those.
of those 4.
We could have used 4 of them back to back to back. I don't
One
think
of
they could do it back
those.
to back.
I don't
Or at
think
least
they-
okay, at least one.
Well, they could have maybe. I don't know how it
but
works.
Either way, no one.
One of them.
Yeah, exactly. All
Could've
all it
stood
could have
up.
taken was one.
And said, whatever the phrase is, I'll have to remember. But there are some things that you can do
There is something.
to shake things up and to say, status quo, no more. You are not going to do this. I was elected by my constituents, and I told them I was going to come up here and I was going to tell you guys, enough is enough. This is lunacy, what's happening. And I will tell them that. It's not about, I want to be a state senator. I want to go in there and tell them enough is enough.
Yeah.
That's what it's about. It's not about the little pin you get. No, I got plenty of those. It's about standing up. I've got grandchildren. We've got young business owners who want to survive here. And these legislators don't even care about them. They don't. They'll shake their hand, as my old boss says, and kiss babies, right? They'll do those things. They'll get elected, and then they completely ignore them. And I hear it from town managers. I hear it from town clerks. Oh, I see him once election season, then I never see him again. They never call me and say, hey, how are things going? What can I do for you? You're the clerk of the town. Crickets, even from the Republicans. I will be a full-time state senator. I will be full-time everywhere. You hear Exaros, no matter what your position is on Exaros, maybe there's some voting that he didn't do that was strong enough. And sometimes I call him and say, what were you doing? You know, and I have. And he'll tell you I have. But he's present. He's here. He's in the community.
He's available. Yeah.
He's available. He's accessible.
Yeah.
That will be me too.
I literally sent an email. It was like one of those pre-automated, pre-created emails that like an organization I follow. You know how they'll make like, oh, send this to your legislature and they'll create
Yes.
a message for you. Well, I just like, oh, I'll send that along to Steve. And within 30 seconds before I even logged off my email, he responds personally. Like he just did it on his phone. Thanks, Sam. Love what you're doing. Definitely agree with you. I'm like, what politician does that? Just a side note, Stephen, I do respect
That's
him
who-
for
And I
for
do.
that. He's really, really
And like I said,
personable.
there's
He's
a
good.
few votes that I'm like, what were you thinking? He's like, Kari, listen, you know, bop, 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 bop. And I'm like, all right. But either way, it was going to go through. So why didn't you just, right?
Yeah, anyway, yeah.
Right? But
That's who you'll be.
he's there. He's accessible.
Yeah.
He is. And that's how I'll be too.
Yeah. So bringing it back, let's get to know you a little bit more. What brought you into politics? Because I know there are some stories about you being involved in a high school, Hanover, right? So you got
Yes.
fired from a teacher, from being a teacher at Hanover High School,
Yes.
and you're currently a school board member on the Bourne School
Yep.
Board.
Bourne School Committee.
Okay,
Yeah.
and you've been recalled twice.
They tried to recall.
Tried to recall you.
2 attempts.
2 attempts, 2
Yeah.
failures.
And they asked me to
off the school
resign.
board.
Yeah.
Take us through that. Who is Kari Macrae? How long have you
So,
been a fighter?
How
My
did
goodness.
I become somebody who has like some little bits on Google?
Yeah.
Because let me tell you, I've had family members call me and be like, "Oh, Gary." Really, where it all kind of happened was as a teacher, seeing some things. Right now, I'm a business teacher, so I didn't see as much. But I heard from other students complaining about different things that were happening in their classrooms or different subjects, or we shouldn't have to do this or they say that kind of stuff. So that was going on. So I kind of was already paying attention. Then after that, seeing some things that were happening, what I decided to do was, then I got cancer. And that kind of alerted me to pay attention more, definitely. And then teaching and doing all that stuff, which is great. Seeing the kids, seeing, positive things, having grandbabies, it kind of makes you pay a little bit more attention. And then COVID happened. So when COVID happened, I was a teacher. They said, 2 weeks. And that day that we left, I called my husband. I was like, we need to get toilet paper, paper towels, because I'm telling you something's going on. Like, it's not good. I just have a feeling. So I sat in my basement and I made face masks because I saw people were spending, they were getting charged like $10 for a face mask, right? Everybody's panicking that the world's going to collapse. And people are charging $10, $15. So I went and I started making little face masks. I'm a seamstress. All kinds of things, right? So anyways, so I was making face masks, but what was I doing? I was at my sewing machine and watching the news and seeing what was happening with riots, with the police being told to stand down, with high-ranking government officials, calling out that these police shouldn't be standing up or pushing back, or I mean, it was just the craziness that was happening with the riots, the stealing, the looting, the attacks on innocent people. I mean, it was just right watching that. I'm like, wow, this world's falling apart. And then hearing parents talk about things that they were seeing in their children's classrooms, right? Because the kids were at the tables. So now I started tutoring. So I started a little tutoring thing. And I was tutoring a couple of kids that were from high school in Plymouth. And I was helping them with English. So different subject than what I have, obviously. And they had a couple of different books that they had to read. So these two boys, freshmen, high school, COVID, right? We're all not in school. And they're like, oh, I got to read this book. And I'm like, all right, you guys take notes. I'll read it out loud to you. Two freshman boys. And they're like, really? I'm like, yes. So I started reading the book. It was language that was a little crazy. Some inappropriate, at least that I thought was inappropriate stuff. The kids obviously hear, but I'm like, this is a book that these kids have to read. Not one that they like found with their friends. And they're like, hee, right? So I'm reading and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is just horrible. So I'm reading it out loud and the kid's like, Ms. Macrae, you just said that. And I'm like, that's okay, clearly. And I keep reading.
It's in the book, yeah.
Right? They're getting red in the face. And I'm like, this is wrong. You guys are embarrassed that I'm reading this, aren't you? And they're like, yeah, why would they be giving us that book if it's that bad? So then one of the, so as I started seeing what was happening in the classrooms now with English, and then, of course, I pulled up the writing assignments, and then I pulled up all the books that they were going to have. And all the books were about, diversity, equity, inclusion. They were all about LGBTQIA, community, like things that weren't necessarily books that I remember my kids even reading only 10, 12 years ago when they were in high school. It was more, I don't know how I would describe it, but there was a change. There was a shift. And then to hear from parents who had little ones who were in the classroom and saw banners, Black Lives Matter banners and the pride flag things and all these things, I was like, that's just not appropriate in a school. We should just be hanging an American flag. We're all Americans, right?
Can't say that.
Like that's encompassing.
Yeah, right.
Protects all of us.
We're good.
Acceptance, like that's a good thing, right? So when I started seeing that stuff, and then I was complaining to my mom, who was actually on hospice living with us during COVID. We kept talking, and then finally, David's like, I'm telling you, it starts in the schools. It starts in the schools. You should go on the school committee. It's my husband's fault. Everybody, it's my husband's fault. So I'm like, all right, fine. My mom is so proud, very much into politics, super, 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 super political. She'd tell me something, and then she'd give me the resource and say, go find other ones too, right? So I run for school committee. Well, nobody really wanted it, so I walked on. So everything's great, right? Go to my meetings, everything's good. I'm like, oh, I'd like to be on the curriculum. I'd like to be on policies, right? Because I want to see what's going on in our schools. Well, I made a cute little TikTok video where I said, so my name's Kari Macrae, and I'm running for school committee to make sure that children in our town aren't taught critical race theory, to make sure that children in our town aren't taught that they can pick or choose to be a boy or a girl, and to make sure that children in our town aren't taught that the country was founded on racism, which we know it's not. So I just voted for myself. Beep, 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 beep. Well, I posted it, and it was like on a TikTok account that was like Macrae Mac of 4 or something I had. So it wasn't like Kari Macrae, right? Well, then on there, I ended up getting about a little over 10,000 followers. And I would share things, and I would go on live and talk to people. And we talk about some of the transgenderism things and some of the, anti-police stuff that was going on in the country. And my dad's a cop, retired. And so I kind of have a feeling about all this stuff. And it was fun to just talk. Well, then I would post and like some things that might have been distasteful or hurt people's feelings. Most of it was true. I think all of it was true. But, might offend some people. So fast forward a few months, and we have our school committee meeting. We're going back to school. And they wanted to create a policy to say that the students would have to wear face masks. Now, I went on my Facebook page and said, hey, what are the parents and board's position on face masks? Do you think the kids should have face masks on school? 2 seconds later, I get a phone call from the chair, and she says, Kari, you can't be posting that. I'm like, why can't I be posting that? It's on my personal page, and I'm just asking our town residents,
the people I represent,
parents that I represent, the parents and the kids, about their position on this. No, that's just not right, and whatever. So then I found out there was nothing that says I couldn't do it.
They just didn't.
So I left it on for a little bit longer. Then I started sending emails out to people, telling people everywhere I was going, hey, we're going to be having this meeting. So we had quite a few parents that called in and said on this Zoom meeting that, why can't it just be a choice? Why can't it just be a choice? Why can't it just be a choice? Not, and the policy was written so that if students, if their mask went down below their nose, then they would get, somebody would say to them, hey, listen, that's a warning. And if you're not going to keep your mask over your nose, then you're going to have to leave the classroom. So, and I'm going to post this Zoom meeting online too, so people can see that I stood up for my constituents that I was representing. The parents that called in were parents that wanted it to be a choice. And they were okay if their son or daughter had to sit towards the back of the classroom. They were, and I said, look, at the end of the day, if your child is wearing a mask and you believe in its efficacy, then it shouldn't be a problem that another child's not wearing one. If you believe that you're protected with the one that you have on your face, then who cares if somebody else isn't wearing it? Mm-hmm. It's their risk that they're taking, right? Mm-hmm. Well, we voted. I voted no. A couple of board members got all teary-eyed and said, I'm not going to be responsible for the death of children. That's what I was dealing with.
Gosh.
The next day.
That was only in California. Come on, people.
Pretty much the next day, I get a phone call. Kari, we have a problem. Somebody saw some TikToks that you posted and some posts that you liked or tagged that you were tagged into that were not appropriate, very homophobic and racist. And I'm like, homophobic and racist?
What do you mean?
Right? So of course I go and I look, and I was like, yeah, I guess I could kind of see how somebody would be offended by it, but it was the truth. It wasn't
homophobic
being
or
mean
racist,
or homophobic or racist. It wasn't. So needless to say, it blew up. Everybody was in a tizzy. But a lot of people were sending me messages and saying, hey, good for you. And I'm sorry. I saw your story on NBC News. They were on the front steps, and then Fox News had it. It just blew up.
Wow.
And I had more people telling me, don't back up. Don't
give in.
Don't give in. Stand your ground. Yeah. We need people like you. You're already in the fire. Just keep fighting it, right? Mm-hmm. So I was dealing with it myself, kind of at the beginning, just me and the school committee. Hadn't really said anything to my husband yet or my family. We had a special, meeting and all this stuff, executive session. And so then the school department wasn't letting it go, is really what happened. So because I wouldn't resign, then the news media was informed even more. And I definitely think it was from the school, let me just say. So I said to my husband one morning, he's like watching the news. We were getting ready to go do something with his mother. And he's watching the news. He's like, do you see this? He goes, these people are crazy. Somebody needs to stand up. And he's like going on and on. And I was like, well, it's kind of funny you say that. Because I think there's going to be an article in the Cape Cod Times today. He's like, are you serious? What are you talking about? And I'm like, well, actually, I know. I just saw the articles in the Cape Cod Times today.
It's already there.
So he looks and he was like, oh my gosh, what did you do? I said, I went on the school committee like you told me to. And so that's kind of what happened. So then a couple of weeks later, so I had just got a job offer to work in Hanover as a business teacher. So all this stuff was kind of going on, but it's a job. It's in Hanover. I'm a teacher. I've been teaching for years. I teach children of all different, races, genders, sexuality, everything. It's not a problem. Talking business and finance and marketing, okay? Never had any issues. So we're teaching. Everything's great. Things are going good. Well, the Mass Teachers Association got involved and blasted out to all the area MTAs. Hey, we need your support to rally behind a school department, blah, blah, blah. Long and short of it, I had the principal comes into my room in the morning, on Monday morning, and says, I need to talk to you. And I was escorted out of the school.
Wow.
And
Just escorted out.
Wow.
Wow.
And, we did have a time to go back. They put me on, administrative leave or whatever type of thing. And
After that, you backed down, you sat down, you didn't do anything, right?
no. So I stood my ground and I said, they were like, well, we saw these posts. They were in the Herald and the Globe and the this and the that and Wall Street Journal. And I was like, yep. And I said, do you want to discuss them? And he was like, how can you? And the one that I guess was the most upsetting to people was Rachel Levine, who is the Health and Human Services Director or whatever, right? Yep. And it literally said, I'm supposed to take mental and physical health advice from an obese man who thinks he's a woman.
Crazy.
That's a great perspective. Nothing wrong with that.
And it was the truth.
Yeah.
And it wasn't to be mean. It wasn't to be disrespectful. It was that's the truth. We're at a point in our society, in our government, that the Assistant Secretary of Health and Human Services for the United States of America is a man who at 50 plus years old decided that he would rather be a woman, which he's not. He's never changed to be. Not that you could, but I digress. And also was dubbed the first woman to ever hold an admiral position in the Navy or something.
Yeah.
No. And that, from a woman's point of view, is what really frustrates me.
Yeah.
Is you're not a woman. You're a transgender. And that's okay. Do your thing. But the fact that you're Woman of the Year and you're woman of this and you're not.
Yeah,
it means women. And women believe it. And women are afraid to stand up. Where are our feminists?
Yeah, it's true.
I think Caitlin.
Well, there are no strong men actually standing up for their daughters.
For their women and their
for
daughters.
for their wives and daughters.
Yeah.
So that's the problem. I mean,
I think Caitlin Jenner won Woman of the Year his first year as a woman.
Yeah.
So that was Rookie of the Year, MVP, and everything all in one year, which was pretty interesting.
And here's the thing. Caitlyn Jenner, Bruce Jenner, you do you. Whatever it is, you're an adult. You're a consenting adult. And people can do whatever they want. The problem is, for a lot of people, including me, is we should not be forced to acknowledge untruths.
Right.
And that's where live your life the way you want. Identify however you want. That's you. That's your life. But when we have like laws like in Massachusetts, I believe Massachusetts is one of the only that has a separate law where gender identity is protected. Protected to the point that if somebody misgenders you, a boss misgenders you because you've changed your gender and now you identify a certain way, which is fine, do you. But the fact that now a boss can be sued because he accidentally misgenders somebody because today you feel more like XYZ, right? Mm-hmm. That's where we've gone.
Right.
It's gone from being able to be you to now it's
everyone
now
else.
I have to acknowledge and I have to validate. Mm-hmm. That's a problem.
Yeah,
that is a problem.
And we've got to wrap it up here. I hate to end. It's been a great conversation.
I feel like we just go on for hours.
I know, good. This has been one of the best for sure. And so I think your thing with the school committee and everything, that's obviously evidence of who you'll be as a senator. Mm-hmm. And I think people should research what actually happened instead of just reading the headlines. Mm-hmm. If you do, and I think you can see who everybody know. If you just watch the podcast, I don't think you're racist or homophobic or anything.
No, I'm not at all.
You're just a normal person. I mean, that's most of us think like you think. Most people that you talk to on the street.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, her website, it's Kari Macrae. Mm-hmm. She's running for state senator, Plymouth Barnstable District. It's an open seat.
Plymouth Sandwich, not Barnstable.
No, Plymouth and Barnstable District. That's how it goes.
Oh,
Plymouth
really?
Barnstable
yeah,
District.
because it's part of Plymouth County and part of Barnstable County.
Okay, I was thinking of the town. I wasn't thinking of the county.
Yeah, that's why, yeah.
What do you think? I'm some amateur?
A little bit.
Her website will be in the...
What is your website? Just for people who are listening
so it's
on audio?
KariMacrae.com. So KariMacrae.com. Yeah.
Cool.
And
how do people if you want people to
so
find you
I'm
on social media?
Facebook at Committee to Elect Kari Macrae. Most of my posts are on just Kari Macrae. And that's, And I'm on Truth Social. I don't do much on there, be honest. We're doing a little bit more with X now, where free speech is amongst us there, which is great. So definitely I'm on there as well, and a couple of Instagram and stuff too. So.
Yeah. And if you've watched to the end, comment cash-filled conservatism. And
we like to do this for basically every episode.
Put your money where your mouth is and actually do it.
Yeah.
And donate to people like Kari Macrae, who's actually going to stand up and represent your beliefs at the State House in Beacon Hill. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you, Kari, for coming on. This has been
thank you. This has been
awesome.
So
appreciate it.
Are we doing the corny ending or no?
No, we're not doing it. Normally do a little corny ending.
No corny ending.
No corny. I know you're all
the
crying.
Sons of Liberty
the 2% of you who are still watching to the end are crying right now because we're not doing the corny ending. Thank you, Kari. Coming on the podcast.
Wonderful.
We appreciate it.
We are the Sons of Liberty.